Some obstacles, they just crash into our lives completely out of nowhere. And others, well, they're the slow, grinding reality that we're born into. But no matter what they look like, they all force us to answer one fundamental question.
Right? It's a question every single one of us is going to have to face at some point. It's really not about if we face adversity, but how we choose to respond when it shows up. So let's dive into some incredible stories that kind of give us a roadmap for the journey through.
Sometimes the obstacle is just a sudden, terrifying crisis. I mean, one minute you're on a totally routine flight, the next, barely 90 seconds after takeoff, a bird strike completely takes out both engines, and you are literally falling out of the sky. This is a pure test of immediate, in-the-moment competence. For other people, though, the obstacle isn't one single event, but this crushing, repeating cycle. Can you imagine being a child and for you, the sight of packed boxes doesn't mean you're going on an adventure? No, it means dread. It means another uprooting, another life you have to leave behind. That's the challenge of constant, grinding instability.
And what if the obstacle is, well, part of your identity? A physical reality you've known since you were literally a baby. This isn't something that just happens to you. In a way, it is you. The challenge here is one of self-perception and definition, right from day one.
And finally, you've got these obstacles that feel like they swallow everything whole, huge societal or environmental disasters. It's not just a personal problem anymore. It becomes this shared identity of loss, where the very land that was supposed to sustain you is now the source of your ruin. So it's pretty clear that adversity is not a one-size-fits-all kind of thing, right? It takes on all these different shapes, and each one demands a different kind of strength. I think understanding its form is really the first step to figuring out how to face it. And this contrast is just so important. On one hand, you have that sudden crisis, like the plane crash. Think of that as a sprint. It demands instant, decisive action. But on the other hand, you have chronic hardship, that slow grind of poverty or the Dust Bowl. That's a marathon. And it requires a completely different tool, pure endurance. Just think about how incredibly compressed a sudden crisis is. In less than 4 minutes, 208 seconds, Captain Sullenberger went from a routine takeoff to making a wild decision that had never, ever been pulled off with a modern jet before. There was just no time to second guess. Every single choice had to be the right one right then and there. So, if the obstacle itself can't be changed, what's left? This brings us to maybe the most powerful strategy of all, changing the way we see it. It's all about seizing control of the story that you're telling yourself about your own life. Wow, I mean, what a powerful reframe. Aimee Mullins takes what society would easily label a disability, and she flips it, declaring it a source of extraordinary potential. The key here is her agency. When she says, "I'll decide," she's taking the power back. She's refusing to let anyone else define her reality. She turns a perceived weakness into her unique strength. And this beautiful metaphor from the house on Mango Street just builds on that idea perfectly. The narrator, she looks at these 4 skinny trees that are struggling to grow out of concrete, and she sees herself. They aren't weak because of the concrete, they're strong despite it. Their struggle becomes the secret, ferocious strength. For Helen Keller, who was trapped in the silent, dark world, the obstacle was a profound lack of connection. But that one moment, the moment she understood that the cool water running over her hand had a name, water, her entire perspective just shattered and reformed. That single new idea, understanding language, it was the key that unlocked her entire world. Okay, so perspective is vital, but it's not enough by itself. It has to be paired with action. And this is where we see people move from that internal belief to creating external solutions, often with just stunning ingenuity. Just take William Kamkwamba's story. It's incredible. He saw a problem, energy poverty, and he just decided he was going to solve it. He didn't have resources, he had resourcefulness. He used junk, he faced ridicule from his neighbors, and yet he built this thing that not only worked, but it changed everything for his family and his entire community. And get this, here's the barrier that kind of paradoxically led to his big breakthrough. He was forced out of formal school because his family couldn't afford an $80 fee. But that obstacle sent him to the local library. And it was there that he found the textbook that set him on this incredible path. Sometimes the thing that blocks one door forces you to find a whole new one you never would have looked for. This brings us right back to Captain Sullenberger. His actions on that day weren't luck. They were the result of what's been called cool competence.
This wasn't just a single good decision. It was the sum of decades of practice, of experience, all of it coming together to allow him to perform flawlessly under absolutely impossible pressure. But let's be real, not all challenges are solved in 208 seconds. What about the ones that last for years, or even a lifetime? Well, this requires a totally different kind of strength, the endurance of the human spirit.
Looking at the Dust Bowl through these two different lenses is fascinating. The historical account gives us the hard facts, like how over-farming actually contributed to the disaster. But John Steinbeck's novel, The Grapes of Wrath, that shows us the deep internal cost, a bitterness that becomes a part of the people themselves, something that they can't sell or leave behind. Both are true, and both reveal a different layer of what it really means to endure.
This quote, it just perfectly captures the emotional weight of that long haul. For the young boy in the circuit, there is no one big victory. It's about surviving this endless cycle. I mean, just when he finally makes a connection, a teacher who actually sees him, the cardboard boxes reappear. The endurance that requires is the ability to keep getting up, even when you know you're probably going to get knocked down again.
So when you pull all of these stories together, this really profound pattern starts to emerge. The very things that stand in our way, the crisis, the hardship, the thing that makes us different, can become the source of our greatest strength. The obstacle itself becomes the way forward. So what are the core strategies we've seen here? Well, from Aimee Mullins and Helen Keller, we learn to reframe our perspective. From William Kamkwamba and Sully Sullenberger, we see the power of ingenious action and deep competence. From the Jodes and Panchito, we learn about the absolute necessity of endurance. And woven through all of it is the power of finding those mentors, like Anne Sullivan and Mr. Loma, and the strength you can find in just embracing what makes you different.
And that leaves us with a final thought to chew on. We've seen how a disability became a source of extraordinary power, how a lack of $80 for tuition led to world-changing innovation, and how a crisis revealed heroic competence. So the real question isn't just how do we overcome obstacles, but how might we transform them? What if the very thing you see as your biggest barrier is actually your greatest hidden opportunity?